Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session at Azure Back to School. This is Saidal, and I'm so happy that this year again I'm part of Azure Back to School. Thanks so much that you are watching this video, and also a special thanks to organizers of Azure Back to School. It's really great that basically they help not only learners but also experts. It's a big gathering, and you can get a lot of knowledge from all the contents that have been shared by amazing speakers. Make sure that you are checking all the contents that is going to be shared after this session or before this session has been shared with you, and you can find the schedule in Azure Back to School schedule table. Beside that, this year we have one more basically event together with Azure Back to School, which is related to security. So if you are interested to one of these topics, make sure that you are following all the schedules that Azure Back to School already published. With that said, today I'm going to share content around hybrid environment, hybrid cloud. And today, the way that I'm going to share my content, it's slightly different than the old ones. Today, I'm going to have mostly demos than presentation file. So with that said, I'm going to start with first slide, which is related about me. So my name is Saidal, Microsoft MVP and Microsoft MCT, and also Azure and AI tech lead of at Opets. Beside that, I'm working together with Microsoft Learn as Microsoft Learn expert, and also I'm honored that I'm part of board member. I'm board member of Global Azure, Microsoft Zero to Hero, and MS Farsi. If you want to connect me, so you can use this QR code. Basically, you can find all the URLs and links that needs to basically shared in terms of Twitter, LinkedIn, website. So you can find all the links by scanning this QR. I really be happy if you can message me, share your knowledge, and we can have a conversation. Definitely, we can learn from each other. So let's start with the first part. What is hybrid environment? In terms of having hybrid environment, it means you don't have all of your resources in cloud, or let's say Azure cloud. When you basically have not that option to be able to migrate all of your resources to cloud, it can be some difficulty for you to use all of the resources, or let's say this technology or cloud technology for your environment. When you can face these kind of issues, if you are facing regulations, for example, some kind of security or compliance that basically limit you to be able to do a full migration to cloud. The other part of that, it can be related to your organization situation. For example, if you already bought a lot of hardwares, or some kind of hardware that it's really specific to some kind of resources or applications. So you already paid a lot, and you cannot set a plan to be able to do that. Or maybe you have some legacy application that basically it's consuming a lot of time to be able to migrate them, and you are looking for some kind of solution to be able to make a kind of seamless management for entire environment that you have. Or you're already using other clouds, for example, AWS or Google Cloud, and you have many resources there. And from that, it's not really wisely to be able to migrate all these resources from the other cloud to, for example, Azure. So with that kind of limitations that you are facing, you need a solution to be able to manage all of your resources. So if you are already part of, for example, networking team or some kind of IT teams, IT ops or DevOps team, you know how much you can face issue or some kind of limitation based on having multi environment, multi-cloud environment, or having resources distributed in different part of the your on-premise design. So with this kind of limitation, it's really hard to have a kind of management center for every kind of resources. You have to pay for different applications for monitoring, or some kind of system that you can bring all of those things together, and you are maybe have to pay for some kind of licenses. So to be able to control everything, save some costs, and leverage all of those kind of ability and let's say options that you have in Azure, Microsoft provided a unique solution that it's only available for from Azure, and the other cloud providers basically have not that option. The other side of that is Microsoft is kind of king of hybrid environment. I always saying that it's really king of hybrid environment because they are Microsoft covering many part of this kind of hybrid environment. Microsoft always consider some kind of limitation around the regulation, so they are not basically they don't want to put you in position that you only need to use migration process to be able to leverage Azure environment. So with that said, we have two main concepts for a hybrid environment in Azure when we want to manage them. One of them is Azure Local and the other Azure Arc. I want to explain it in a very simple terms. However, each one of these components about hybrid environments, basically they have a lot of services under that, and then it's like a lot of information that you need to learn about them to be able to design and implement. In simple terms, when we are talking about Azure Local, it means you need to get some new hardwares and put it in your on-premise environment. And then when you basically facing those kind of regulation or some kind of limitation, you are able to use Azure Local resources to connect it to an Azure environment based on, for example, resource bridge. And then you can deploy those resources that you want, but not in Microsoft data centers, but also in your on-premise environment. For example, you basically need to have a Kubernetes cluster, but you want to manage it from Azure. So with that process that you are needs to take, you having a hardware in your environment based on Azure Local, then you can deploy your cluster from cloud because it's already connected to Azure. So having having hardwares, buying hardwares, and then connected to Azure. About Azure Arc, it means you already have that kind of hardwares in your environment. You have SQL servers right now. You have servers. You have hardwares, or you having a lot of resources in the other clouds. So Azure Arc helps you basically to create a connection between your resources and the other environment. To understand it better, I'm sharing this screen, which is directly from Azure Arc diagram, or let's say architecture websites of Microsoft. You can basically find it under Cloud Adoption Framework and the scenario related Azure Arc enabled servers. One of these simple diagrams that you can understand how you can leverage Azure Arc in your environment. So here in down part of this diagram, the bottom line, we have different cloud platform from different services. Azure Stack HCI, which is part of the Azure Cloud, it's the new concept with the new name. And then VMware and also AWS Web Services. It means if you have your resources, doesn't matter where in the other cloud or on-premise environment, you have these options to be able to use for Azure Arc. And then what you can do in terms of enabled server, Azure Arc enabled server. You can have Arc enabled server and also Azure Arc enabled SQL server. And it's possible for all of these platforms, which is pretty much great. Why? Because then you can connect it to this part of this diagram. You can have threat protection, monitoring and logs, secret change tracking, extensibility, patching and updates, and also auto manage. To be able to simply explain it, imagine that you can onboard your servers to Azure Arc. And as soon as you onboard them, you have them as a kind of resource. I'm going to share you, of course, in the demo, but I just want to you understand how it does work. Based on the process that I'm going to show, you will get your VM inside your Azure based on this kind of connection that you are going to set. And as soon as you onboard your servers into Azure Arc, basically you can do everything that you can do with Azure VMs. So if you check this diagram here, for the Azure native part, you have the same VMs and options because it's under Azure, and basically we can use and enjoy using them. However, when it comes to this part about resource inventory, from resource inventory until to compliance and security, you can use the same concept of Azure VMs for Azure Arc enabled server. And then you have other options, for example, Azure Automation updates. You can tag your resources using Graph Explorer. You can use Azure AD role-based access. I'm going to show you how it does work. You can use Azure Policy Monitoring, Defender for Cloud, which is amazing, and then Key Vault, Azure Auto Manage, and so on. On top of that, when it comes to administration, it means if how you want to manage them, then we have some kind of user interface. You can leverage Azure Portal, you can use Azure REST API, or Azure CLI and PowerShell, which is great. So with this concept or diagram that we can see right now here, basically you can onboard your servers in, for example, single mode, or if you have high scale environment, you can easily onboard them to your environment. So as I've promised, in this session, we will have more demos than the actual presentation based on the slides. And the reason that I decided to do that is I want you to get a good understanding of how you can leverage Azure Arc. I'm not going to deep dive to each part of this components in Azure Arc because it takes a lot of time. However, I want to give you a very wide view of, or let's say, getting a very good vision of how you can leverage Azure Arc for your environment. Okay, so this is my Azure portal, and basically when you go to search box or marketplace, you can easily type Azure Arc, and definitely you can find the Azure Arc. From left side, you have displayed, which is categorized, if we do this, categorized to this different parts from Azure resources, host environments, data services, IoTs, application services, license management, and DevOps. I will dive into each one of these components here so you can get a very good understanding of each one of these. Okay, so in the first page, overview, it's introducing you a lot of things that you can learn about them. But one thing that is really important here is about this part. For those that they want to learn about Azure Arc. And why I'm mentioning this one, because if we be honest, it's hard to create a kind of laboratory for you in Azure Arc, because you need to have a hybrid environment in, for example, resources in the other cloud, or if you have some kind of resources that you can use. If you have some kind of test server laboratory in home, then you can basically use that. Of course, if you have an organization, you want to test Azure Arc, you can use that. I'll let you know how you can do that, and in some part of that it's free, so it's easy to use. However, if you don't have anything, Azure Arc Jumpstart, it's the basically the way that you can test this environment. So when we try Jumpstart Bugs, let's jump into the main page. This is the Jumpstart project page. I can go a bit, yeah. And we have Jumpstart Universe. To just give you very simple information here, Jumpstart is the project that you can simulate the Azure Arc and also Azure Local in your Azure environment. It means you do not need to have a hybrid environment. Every single components that you need to test basically are going to deploy in your Azure tenant. And as you can see, there is Azure Arc Jumpstart Universe, and each one of these are components for testing your environment. So, for example, ArcBox, which is the simplest one, you can basically, based on the flavor that you want to deploy, you can get IT pros or DevOps, or for data. If I show you this IT pros, this is the main diagram, and it's going to build some resources for your environment to be able to test. To deploy these resources, you need to for example, check if, for example, CPU quota is available in your environment, and there are step-by-steps of deploying, and also you can use ARM template deployment, or you can use Bicep and PowerShell, Azure CLI to be able to deploy this test environment. Personally, I believe you can use this scenario to, for example, test different aspects of Azure Arc, but you have to be careful about the cost because it's going to deploy different resources. And recently, they have added some options, for example, auto shutdown time, which gives you this possibility to control the cost. But depends on the scenario that you want to deploy. You have to be careful about the cost of the environment. But basically, for between 1 to 7 days testing, it's something that you can control it, or buy some credit from Microsoft. And then we have local bugs. Drops, which is included all of the contribution from amazing people regarding Arc Jumpstart, and you can get a lot of information based on deployment, design, or any kind of, for example, add-on for your environment. Just these kind of drops are pretty much flexible. Even for production environment, you can use them. So it's a kind of idea that you can use, and you can leverage this service. And then Agora, the other one, which is pretty much complex scenario in Jumpstart universe. For example, you can deploy a full environment included AI, voice, video detector, indexer, Kubernetes clusters, and so on. These kind of scenarios are representing a real use case of Azure Arc for any, for example, industrial or non-industrial IoT solution for you. So basically, you can learn a lot from that. Okay. Let's start with Azure Arc. When we check the left blade, as I've said, just a second, left blade, as I've said, the first item and one of the most useful of Azure Arc part is Azure Arc enabled server. So here, basically, as soon as you onboard your servers, you can get a lot of information about the server that has been basically deployed in your environment. And then you can get a lot of options to be able to build in your servers. Here you can see, for example, if agent status is online or offline. Currently for me it's offline because the server is down. I just want to show you different part of this environment. And then you can get information about Defender extension if it's already installed and enabled, and also monitoring. Also, you can get information about operating system. To just jump into one of these, for this one, I can see information regarding that it's Ubuntu, the version of the operation system, and some information around that. Also, in terms of connection, I can use Azure AZ CLI to be able to connect to my VM. It's important that you know for this kind of connectivity, I'll show you also in a Windows-based machine that you do not need to open any port into your server from the firewall. So basically, you can easily control and manage your VM by port, SSH port, or RDP remote desktop port directly from Azure without opening any port. One thing that I have to mention here is onboarding servers into Azure Arc is free. So when you onboard them, then other options that you are going to enable, it may cost for your environment. Why I'm saying it may cost? Because it depends in which level you are going to enable them. By default, onboarding the resources using, for example, tags and some service inventory, machine inventories, using workbooks, they are free for to use for Azure environments. So for security, definitely you can enable Cloud Defender security for your VM. You are able to enable the extension. Most useful options here is about policy. If you have a kind of compliance and policy in your environment, in your Azure environment, for example, for VMs, definitely you can apply that. For example, you need to make sure about the update management or any kind of patch management or some kind of security layer under your VMs. You can apply those policies for your environment as well, for your VMs. You can apply machine configurations for your VMs. Just give you an example. For example, for Windows machines, you want to make sure some Windows machines that you have should follow to having some specific configuration of IIS. For those Windows machines, even they are new, or if they are needs to be checked that IIS configurations are always available, you can define this machine configuration to make sure every single policies, or let's say configuration that you are applying to your VM is all basically are always compliant. We have run commands here. For run commands, as you can see, you can push different commands to your VM to be able to get some information or update or delete or get lists. This one we can jump because I'm going to explain it in SQL Server part. And then we have updates, which basically related to update management for your environment. So imagine that you can create one policy or one update management for entire Linux machines or for a specific Windows machines in your environment. Then you do not need to have some kind of third-party application for your on-premise environment, and then some kind of specific policy for your VMs in Azure. Or, for example, if you have multi-cloud environment, then you do not need to build two different update management scenario for your VMs across of all distributed resources. So basically, you can build one update service, maintenance window, and so on for your VMs and control them from one management center. Then we have these two, inventory and change tracking. For inventory and change tracking, just that, for example, you can create some specific inventories options for your application and services that you have, or you can enable change tracking for your specific application path or folder. If something happened or change happened in your application or source of the file, you can definitely get some information from your service. And then inside, definitely you can use App Insight for your Arc enabled server, which gives you this option to create alerts, for example, in terms of performance. This machine is not available now. Then I don't think that we can get some performance. As you can see, the data is old, but based on the old data, I still can see some performance and services. Meanwhile, let me see if the service is somehow disabled. As I've said, I use Arc enable, jumpstart scenario for this VM. Okay, this VM is turned off. So I'm going to turn it on, and I think after that we can get some information into logs and services. So I can see a lot of information. I can create some kind of alert based on, for example, storage or performance of the VM, or if I have a specific application that I need to track that activity of the application, definitely I can create a log and, for example, some performance monitoring about that. Beside that, as I said, we can create workbook dashboards. So if you get all of those information from your VM, definitely you can create workbook dashboard for your resources. If you back to the VM list that we have here, I'm going to show you Windows option as well. Here for Windows, we have some more options here, which one of them is Windows Server. It means you can either following the license for each local server, or you can basically enable Azure benefits that you can manage all the licenses from Azure. And of course, you can save some cost in terms of Azure benefits. For those customers that they already have licenses based on, for example, license management volume, you can connect your resources to Azure Arc and then leverage Azure benefits with Azure benefits, and then save some costs regarding your licenses. Here we have one more option, which is related to set up Windows Admin Center. So when this machine is enabled, I can press setup, and by clicking on that, without needing VPN or any direct connection, the agent that has been installed on VMs based on Azure Arc extension, it's going to enable the feature of Admin Center for my machine in my on-premise environment. And it's really interesting because I'm saying again, you do not need to open any port to your server. And what you can get here, it's not only Admin Center like Performance, PowerShell, or some other options that you can get from Admin Center, but also you can do a remote desktop, as you already saw in Linux machine, that you can do AZ SSH logging to your Linux machine. However, here you can do RDP, and then it gives you a lot of flexibility to control and manage who is going to have access to your VMs, and it's great because it does work with role-based access control. And then if you want to create some kind of protection for your VM, you can leverage Azure Site Recovery Configuration to be able to create connection between your on-premise and cloud, and make sure that basically your machine can be recovered in terms of disasters. Also, you can leverage best practice assessment for your VMs, which gives you a lot of options to make sure all the configuration and basically the Windows Server evaluation are passing by many standards assessment from Microsoft. It's a lot better to have all these assessment in your environment based on Windows or any SQL servers that you have. And basically, you can manage your servers and make sure that everything is secure in your environment. Okay, so let me refresh this. As you can see, two of VMs status changed to connected because I turned it on the VM, which is basically simulating Windows Hyper-V in an on-premise environment. And very soon other VMs are going to up and running. So this one, for example, this machine is enabled. Let's try admin center setup. I'm going to have the default port, and sometimes it takes time. One thing that I need to mention here, since it's role-based access control, you need assign a specific admin center role to be able to use this service in your VM. I'll show you because I want you to see the basically warning or notification inside portal that you need to get access to that specific role to be able to use that. Okay, we can leave it right now in this setup. All the machines are connected, and then we can jump to another one, which is again Azure Arc resources, but this one is related to basically Azure Arc Kubernetes server. So it means, in simple terms, imagine that you have Kubernetes servers or Kubernetes clusters in your environment. For those that they are working with Kubernetes, basically, building Kubernetes and be able to create integration and also having a full connectivity, different access and management for your cluster, it's hard. In many cases, you need to create a kind of DevOps process for your Kubernetes clusters, and it's hard to be able to connect it, for example, to Azure DevOps or GitHub in a secure way. So with Azure Arc, Kubernetes, Azure Arc enabled Kubernetes, you have this option to onboard your Kubernetes into Azure Arc and then basically leverage the seamless configuration and also options that you have in AKS or Azure Kubernetes service, which is great. If you already work with that, you know how you can manage your cluster in this case. So as you can see, the blade for this one is same as Azure Kubernetes service. However, this one is Azure Arc connected Kubernetes, and basically I can get all the information regarding the pods, all the capabilities that I can get. All them are from my on-premise environment. So here you can get all the namespace, workloads, service, and ingress if you want to configure one of them. Let's see. Okay, I have problem here because there is a misconfiguration regarding the ingress, and I'll show you why it's like this. And then all the information that you need to get for your Kubernetes. And also, if you want to connect it to some kind of, for example, GitHub's process, it's easy to do that. Here, as you can see for the monitoring, I can enable manage Prometheus for my cluster. And beside that, I have this option to connect Grafana, manage Grafana to my cluster and get all the information. So as you can see, for example, for nodes, I can get some information regarding the nodes that I have. All the information that are coming from my local cluster, any controllers that have been deployed. I can easily get some information. All the containers that are available in my cluster with some information. So basically, it gives you a lot of visibility and monitoring option in terms of your cluster. And when it comes to GitHubs, so you can easily create GitHub's configuration. Depends on source. For example, if it's going to Flux or some kind of that. Let's try to do a test and show you the next step. Okay, sorry. Azure back to school. School, yes. And then giving a namespace, for example, test namespace, and I'll give it just a scope as a namespace. So here, then I can select if it's a bucket, if it's a Git repository, if it's Azure Blob, and then main branch and all the things that I need, and basically customization. I don't have any repository right now connected to this one. However, you can get a lot of customization to be able to connect your local Kubernetes cluster into any Git repository. And the good thing is, as soon as you push any updates into your Git repository, definitely it's going to be pushed to your local service. Okay. Same as VMs, you have insight for your Kubernetes cluster as well. I already showed this environment, and definitely you can create different layers of alert for this service as well. Good. You can also get some information regarding the type of, for example, Kubernetes that you have in case of version controls. In environment is basically related to those kind of scenarios that you want basically connected to a specific environments. If you have VMware vCenter, if you have SCVMM for Windows Server Management also, and then Azure Local. So differences between these three here is for Azure Local, as I've said, you already have the hardware and you want to deploy some kind of bridge between your actual on-premise environment and then Azure. And as soon as you do that, you can get access to all of your environment, deploy resources. And this part is really important, which type of resources. And I'm going to explain it more, then you can get understanding. But then, for example, you can deploy Kubernetes, you can deploy app services and logic apps into your environment and hosting them on your hardware resources. As you can see, the steps are pretty much clear. You just need to order the hardware and then download the software, which is Windows OS, and it's included all the necessary components, and then deploy the Azure Local, creating instance based on the OS that you have deployed in your environment. Very soon, I'm going to basically deploy a new Azure Local for another demo in another session, because it takes a lot of time. And then you can see how we can leverage Azure Local for any type of environment. Also, it's the same for VMware vCenter. If you want to basically add your vCenter in here, what you can do with vCenter and SCVMM, it's more managing the VMs that you have under these two environments. For example, turning off or on VMs, checking the storage, monitoring. In some cases, you can create or delete VMs. So basically, you have one management center for entire your solutions. Okay, let's jump to this part, which is about data services. Okay, so when you onboard your SQL Server into Azure Arc, you can basically get a lot of information and flexibility in terms of your environment. And it means you can manage your SQL Server in different aspects of security and uh, availability, backup, and updates. So let's start with this one. What we can get when you onboard a SQL database. First of all, you can get a lot of information in one basically view of your environment. It's really great for inventory, and you can get a lot of information for your services. If you have Windows SQL Server 2022 above, you can leverage this part of manage identity, and you can connect Entra ID admin to your SQL Server. It's simple as it is. If I just type this and then here select, and then I just need to use it as a service management and continue. And then when I check for Microsoft Peer Review governance, definitely I can get some more option in terms of connectivity between the service and the peer review feature. Let's try to save it. Okay, I missed this one because I need to create some kind of key vaults. Let's see if I have any available key vaults here. Maybe I can use this one just for a test. I want to see if it's going to be available for me. Okay, it's going to be deployed, and it means this account has access as an admin to my SQL Server, and it can be managed by Entra ID, which is great. You can easily set this kind of admin services for your SQL Server. But this one, which is about best practice assessment, it's really cool. If you have a SQL Server with different databases and so on, it's really easy to enable the assessment. This one, okay, assessment settings, okay, it's missing because I need to define some kind of configuration here. Let's set it for 5. Okay, schedule assessment and see if it does work now. Otherwise, I have another one which is already enabled. I can show you there. And then when it's ready, because it takes time to start the schedule and then show you the assessment, basically I can back here. This one is the ISS, so it's not going to show us anything. But here, let's see if it's started already. Okay. This one should be getting configuration ready to be able to start. But I'll show you in the other database. So if we back to updates and try to enable updates management, basically we can set updates for your SQL Server. It means it's not only for SQL Server, definitely it's for all the VMs that you are going to onboard, and you can use this update management to orchestrate your updates from Azure to follow all the security. One of the things that I already suggest to all the admins is make sure that you have these orchestrated updates from Azure, because in some cases, when you are getting specific updates, the way that Azure manage that is something that you do not need to somehow restart your VM. It's in some cases you just need to make it Azure control it. So it's really good. Sometimes you set that orchestration based on Azure, so it gives you a lot of flexibility. Extend security update, I will explain it in a minute. Then you can get some information regarding your databases. Also, if you have availabilities group, I don't have anything here, but for databases, it does work in this way. And for example, I have this database. For database, You can get some information around how it does work, about updates, about, for example, the collection. The collection, and then if it's auto shrink or not. There are really good information regarding your SQL database. But this part, which is related to backup, so you can create a backup service for your databases, and it helps you to make sure that you have backup for your databases outside of your on-premise environment. So you can create some kind of, for example, retention period, full backup every 7 days in this case, and other information. Also, you can set other configuration if you need to update for your backup scenario. But it's great if you want to enable this service. Okay, let me see if best practice assignments showing anything to me. Yes. So as you can see, best practice assessment is not available now. The other one is already scheduled. I'm going to enable, check this one. And yes, I can get a lot of information about the current setup of my SQL Server. It's like some high severity, some medium, and so on. So basically, I can manage and control my SQL Server in a very good way. Also, you can get a lot of information in terms of, for example, how many passed, how many are low, how many is high, and more information that you need. If you have more instance, definitely you can change your instance for getting more information. Okay, so far good. We can go here. One thing that I would like to mention about SQL database as well, it's this option here. So you may reach to that level that you can say, okay, I can migrate my database to Cloud. So this is the option that you can use that. For example, as a temporary solution, you can onboard your SQL Server, on-premise SQL Server into Azure Arc, use the features that you have here, and then based on that, for example, when it's time, you can start the assessment and then make sure that you can migrate entire SQL Server into Azure. So as you can see, it's like different steps here. If it's zooming, yes. So for example, as a source instance, I can check about 1 to 4 steps to get a report about my SQL server and databases. And then I can select a target, which is 2 of 4 step, and then migrate data, which is a step 3, and then monitor and cut over. So in 4 steps, you can basically migrate your SQL database and server into Azure. And it's really great because you can save a lot of time. You can get a lot of information based on the assessment. Let's see this report if it's available for me. So this is the steps, for example, recommended target that it's SQL Server on Azure VM for me in this case, and then the type of the machine and the information that I need to know. The reason that you can see it's like this is basically because the type of the SQL Server and databases that I'm using. Also, I can use Azure SQL Manage instance. I need to create target phase first, and then it's going to be some calculation behind the scene to show me. And as you can see, there is some information. For example, database is not ready state to be able to get some more information regarding Azure SQL database. So if you have a plan to migrate to Cloud, I can basically suggest you use Azure Arc first and then get some information and then continue with a migration plan. And then in terms of report, definitely you can get some report directly from assessment. And when it comes to cutover and monitoring, if you are in state of step 3 of migration, which you already move your data and it's time to cut over your data and monitor the process, definitely you can use this plate. Good. I don't have any managed instance right now, but basically with managed instance, it means you can leverage SQL managed instance for your databases, which is basic. It means you are managing your databases in your on-premise, but from Azure. And if I'm going to create a SQL managed instance here, you can see that it's going to use some custom location and so on. Why it's like this? Because it's going to use a Kubernetes service which is located in your on-premise to be able to build a kind of services so it can manage your databases inside the Kubernetes. So basically, it's a kind of way that you can manage your databases inside your environment if you have some regulation or security that needs to be, and the databases needs to be on your local environment. You have the same process if you have a Postgres server. As you can see, it's preview, and also for MySQL, Microsoft is working to extend the databases services into other type of SQL servers. And also regarding the data controller, it's the same as SQL manage instance that I just explained. You are going to have a data controller which is working on your Kubernetes environment and build this scenario that you can control your databases from Azure, but actually they are located in your on-premise environment. Good. So for those that they love IoT world, you can bring your IoT services into Azure Arc by Azure Arc Edge Kubernetes cluster. So, for example, if you have an IoT service built on Kubernetes, as Kubernetes service, you can onboard them here and control the IoT operations inside the Azure Arc in terms of monitoring, management, control, and so on. And then you can get a very good assets regarding the resources that you have inside Azure Arc. Okay, let's do this one and jump into application services. Okay, what is these application services here that we can see in the left blade? If I zoom in, yes. Currently, we have app services, containers apps, API management, event grid topics, function, and logic apps. Okay, what are these? Imagine that you need to host these kind of services in your environment. However, you can manage them from Azure. So if you have some kind of application that needs app services, or if you are going to create a flow based on logic apps and some automation, but still you want to locate them in your on-premises, or if you want to build a container apps in your environment, but again, based on the regulation or some kind of limitation, you need to have all of those containers apps in your on-premise resources or in your hardware that are hardwares that are located in distributed places. So in this case, in the same scenario that I said, it's going to build a kind of Kubernetes cluster in your on-premise. Basically, it's going to extend these services into your on-premise. So if you are going to build an app service or a container apps, basically you are using this extension connected to your local Kubernetes cluster, and it's building the services on your hardware, on your on-premise environment. So it's just managed by Azure. However, you can extend these kind of options and possibilities not only to Azure but also the other part of your environment, and it gives you the simplicity for management, and also the security and following the regulation that you have in your environment. So for that app services, you can easily run them on some kind of Kubernetes cluster. These current things that you can see here, they are not part of uh, you know this scenario yet, but as soon as you move them, basically you can run them on your environment. Okay. Also, very soon I'm going to have another demo as well, separate demo as well, regarding this app services, application services as well. Okay, let's jump to the other one, which is licenses. So, what is this ESU, or Extend Security Updates? So, as you know, Microsoft informed that Windows Server 2012 R2 and down to, for example, 2008 are not supporting anymore, and basically they are not getting security update. But in many cases, many customers, they have difficulty to move immediately from Windows Server, for example, 2012 to upper version. So the solution that Microsoft provided to these customers are related to this ECU, or Extend Security Update. It means you can update your Windows Server, and then based on that onboarding, you can connect it to, for example, the license details, and get a volume license connected to that services and the servers. And then you can make sure, for example, within a year or 2 years, you are getting the security updates from Microsoft. It's a very good feature for those that they need have more time to be able to migrate their Windows to another versions. As I've said, Windows Server, Azure Benefit, and licenses, it's the feature that you can control your licenses from Azure. So if I go here, let's try it from here, and then active benefits, I can select these benefits and enable the feature for my Windows Server. And the benefits that I'm going to get and set up this following feature is going to be enabled the all the associated services regarding the service, and then the license will be managed from Azure, and then you will get some discount in terms of cost of the license. In many cases, it's really great because you can save, I can say sometimes up to 70%, depends on your environment. So you may consider to have these Azure license benefits for your environment. SQL Server licenses and also SQL Server ESU licenses is the same. So basically, you can control your license of VMs inside Azure Arc. I can create a kind of, for example, licenses here. For example, it's called dash licenses. And then let's put it on North Europe to just show you. And I just need to define the core, for example, the licenses, how I'm going to get billing plan for my licenses, how much the physical core, and then how is going to being active licenses for my environment. For example, I'm going to active my licenses later, or as soon as it's ready to be deployed, and then tags. Definitely you can get licenses into Azure and leverage the management inside Azure Arc. Okay. And basically the last part, which is about the management. Okay. Let's start with multi-cloud connectors. I'm going to explain it in a simple way. However, if you want to learn how you can connect AWS in a very simple way into your environment, into your Azure Arc, I suggest you to watch my YouTube regarding Azure Hybrid Connect to AWS, which is a full demo about how you can create, how you can connect, and so on, and get understanding. And you may have AWS environment which helps you to basically create the connection. Okay, so when you have other resources, Microsoft currently is working on AWS. Definitely is going to be extended to other cloud providers, for example, Google. But for the current one, which is AWS, you can basically Microsoft makes your life easy. When you are going to create the connector, then you need to define if it's a single organization account or it's an organization account, and then you need to define your AWS account ID. You need to make sure that you have proper basically proper permission for your account that you are using for this connection. I'm definitely not getting the next step here, and that's why I'm saying check out that video that I've created regarding this connection. When you build, I can explain it in a simple terms. So when you build this connector, it gives you a kind of way you can build service in AWS, which is it's AWS Cloud Formation, a kind of automation inside AWS, and based on that Cloud Formation, this connection will be created between Azure and AWS, and it's going to run the script of onboarding the servers into Azure Arc. So basically, with one action, with Cloud Formation and connectivity with Azure Arc, you are able to add all of the servers that you need to onboard to Azure Arc, and it gives you a lot of flexibility to onboard different servers, and it just works with adding a tags. Adding a tag to your VM, and it doesn't matter if it's Windows or if it's Linux. It's going to be run and onboard those servers without adding, consuming a lot of time. When I'm saying onboarding the servers, I just want to jump back to show you how you can onboard servers, not AWS, or for example, servers in other cloud like Google, or when you have on-premise. So here I'm jumping back to machines, and here I'm going to add machines to show you what options you have here. So here you have either single server, multi-servers, Windows with installer, or AWS. Okay, what are differences between these three? This one is obvious because you can use AWS on the cloud connector that I showed you. But these three, basically, it means for this one, it's simple. If I show you generate a script, just some information, I just randomly set some information. Let's select North Europe, and the operation system, for example, I'm going to have Windows. Do I have any connected SQL server, or it should be enabled to be able to automatically onboard the SQL servers? If yes or no. Public endpoint, private endpoint, for example, if you want to have a private endpoint based on Express route or VPN, or you can leave it for public endpoint. It doesn't mean that it's not secure. It's pretty much secure, but for those cases that you want to add more security layer, definitely you can go with private endpoint. And then if you have gateway resources, I'm going to explain what is the gateway resources. You can use that. And if I press next, definitely some tags. And this is the script that basically you can use to be able to onboard to Azure Arc. And it helps you to create this connection for a single server. But however, what about the multi-servers? If I have, for example, Active Directory, or Ansible, and I want to push the script to many servers in terms of, for example, if they are part of some kind of, let's say, for example, security group, or let's say group policies. Okay, here I'm going to select again this information and leave it as Windows right now. Same SQL Server, public endpoint. As you can see, they are the same, but there is one option here that is different than single server. Here, you need to create a service principal account, and basically it acts as the part that you need to communicate with Azure, because when you run this uh, script in your server based on group policy or Ansible, basically it needs to communicate with Azure, and this service principal is responsible to communicate with Azure. So if I go create a new one, and let's name it test for Arc, I can assign it into subscription level or resource group. I suggest you keep it in with lowest access level for the service principal. You can define the resource groups and some description, of course, how much it should be available based on the expiration date. Sometimes 1 week is enough, but it depends on scenario that you are going to follow and basically how much it takes that you onboard. And then again, for the rules, depends on what kind of resources you are going to deploy or onboard in your environment. Then you can select one of these. For example, I'm going to do Azure Arc connected machine onboard. So I'm going to just select this one, create, and done. I just need to download and close this ID. So when I download the information, now I have service principal for my account, and it's available here. So I can click next, of course, tags if you need, and then you have information here. Even it's basic script, if it's going to be in configuration manager, group policy, and Ansible. So let's just try the check the group policy together. So you have several steps. First of all, you need to define which type of deployment method you want, and then download installer package, and then download files to local directories. So installer package is basically the Azure Arc installer package, which is available in Server 2022 and above. But definitely you can have it for other version of Windows for being installed together with the other files. And then you have a local directory. If I open this one, you can see the Azure Arc enabled group policy information. This file is useful when you want to create the policy, because connected with that, there is a PowerShell code that you need to define some information here. For example, domain name, contoso dot, for example, se, and then remote server domain name, the name of the domain server that you have, and the shared place that you are going to locate these files together, both remote share files, local directory data. For example, the file that you can see in GitHub, you need to download this one, and you need to make sure those servers that are going to be on board, all of them having access to that local directory that you already shared with them. So it's really important that they have access to that files. And then you need to run this script. You just need to log in either in your VM or with the access that you can deploy group policy in your Active Directory. Locate the information of the service principal account that it just created, and then run this script in the location that you have these files. And it's going to create a group policy inside your Active Directory. Then you can create different groups and assign that group policy to the servers. And then one by one, you can see the servers are going to onboard to your environment. Perfect. And it's the same for Ansible. For those that they are working with Ansible, this is the code you can download and run it in Ansible playbook based on this command that you can see. And it's going to deploy all the Linux machines in your environment, onboard them. Okay, cool. Let's back here and check these other items. For site manager, imagine that you have enterprise environment, a lot of VMs that already onboarded and resources that already onboarded. Basically, you can create site manager, some information for them, and then you can basically move those sites or onboarded resources into different site manager, so you can get better view and you can bulk updates or bulk changes in your each site. For example, I have a branch office in Norway, another branch office in Sweden. Then I can create site manager for each branches and make sure that I can follow all the policies or any type of monitoring that I want to define for each location. Good. Custom location is something that is useful when you have Kubernetes clusters because it helps you to create and operate your resources based on the custom locations. And basically, it does work for it's a kind of management tools for all of your data centers. Service principal, we just talked about that you can create service principal for different use cases in, for example, automated authentication to onboard the servers. Resource bridge is for creating bridge between your Azure local and also your Azure resources. It's for those scenario that you are using, for example, for connecting Azure Arc to VMware vCenter or SV CMM and all, even for Azure local. Private link scope, definitely for those that they want to create a private link between the services and make sure that Azure Arc using that service. But the last one, which is about Azure Arc Gateway. So Azure Arc Gateway basically means if you want, or let's say in enterprise grade, when you have different environment and different endpoint, it's really hard to manage all of them. And for every single endpoint that you are going to have with Azure Arc, you definitely need to do a lot of changes in your backend, for example, in terms of security, firewall, and so on, to, for example, just whitelist them. So what is the best way to do that? You can create an Azure Arc gateway, which gives you one gateway to be able to communicate with all the resources that you have. And it gives you this possibility to manage all of your Azure Arc resources in one gateway. So in enterprise solutions, it's the best way to do that. Good. I think I explained everything. The only things that I would like to check if it's available, sometimes it needs to redeploy, but we will see. Sorry, admin center. So as you can see, it says something wrong. So easily you can uninstall the agent and install it again. Definitely, I'm going to have another demo regarding the enabling admin center. However, there are some other demos that I already presented regarding the admin center. But you can enable this service if you face the error, for example, exactly what I face right now. You can easily uninstall and install it again. Sometimes it's related to connectivity between Azure and the service or server that you have, and maybe it couldn't install the agent properly. So you just need to uninstall and install it again, but it will be fixed. So one thing that I've seen here that we can check as the last part of this demo It's about update management for this server to just show you that you can get some information regarding the update management as well. If it's loaded. Perfect. So as you can see, this is the update management for the server. I can see that I have two updates here. One of them is security, and the other is the malicious software removal tool. I can easily click here and do one-time update for this machine. Next, and then I have two updates. I would like to go with the security one. Next, reboot if it's required, definitely. Otherwise, you have to make sure that you have maintenance window open and then install. Easy. However, you can manage all of that under update management service. I can try it here, I guess. Yes, this link navigate me to that one as well. So I can get a very good view of the resources that I have. For example, 21 Azure virtual machines. Also, I have 5 virtual machines under Azure Arc. And then if I have any Azure local, definitely I can manage them from update management. Perfect. So this one, it says it's installed successfully. I wish it was like installed, but I will definitely have another demo regarding that. Good. So I think I'm good on demo. So I hope you liked this session. I tried to went through all these aspects of Azure Arc. You can contact me, and if you have any question regarding hybrid environment, reach out to me, and definitely we can have a good conversation around hybrid environment. So also, I invite every one of you to check out Azure Back to School, other contents from other speakers. You will learn a lot of great things from them. And then what I can say, keep going, learning more, and good luck. Wish you the best. Have a good one.